And joining us right now is the owner and GM of your Cowboys. It's Jerry Jones. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning. And, boy, it's not only good to be where we are with our team and headed over there to Jacksonville, but it's good to be in the Christmas time of the year.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is. Jerry Jones, brought to you by Ford, built for Texas, built for you. Jerry, you are on the cusp of back-to-back playoff appearances, and I think that this is like the first time to win like at least 10 games in back-to-back seasons since like 1996. How significant is that to you to be in this position as a franchise?
Well, it's very, very significant. It's important to everything we do. It's very disappointing not to have had consistency to basically accomplish a steady playoff appearance team. That's hard to do. And you can go with that with looking at our competition all over the league. So it's very hats off to Mike, our coach, McCarthy. Hats off to the players, and I'm proud for the fans.
Well, and you just mentioned that with Mike McCarthy, he seems like, and just kind of knowing the way he was in Green Bay, he seems like a guy that takes a lot of pride in doing what he's doing right now with this team. How much pride does he have in what he's accomplishing right now?
Well, he's first of all, I don't know that the pride thing. That's a good word. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know that that's what I think about when I see him. What I think about is his focus on the playoffs, his focus on having a team ready to compete under the circumstances of a playoff. In other words, he looks at the process of spring and training camp and, if you will, the early part of a season. He looks at it as a preparation for when the real football comes, when it's really down to, as Bill Parcells used to say, I would never quit coaching if I could just start coaching in the playoffs. So Mike does work that way. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he dismisses any early game that we play, but it is about the playoffs with him, and I think that shows. And you're allowed to do some things that frankly, where we are in the NFL allow us to do. And you can make teams better as you move toward the playoffs when you see that you're going to get a chance to be in it. That hasn't always been that way. But just because the nature of how players, the nature of where we are in the game, the skill level of the game, you can do like we're doing and pick up a Beckham or pick up a Hilton. You can do those kinds of things and make your team better at this time of the year. Why? Because there's some players out there that have also had their eye on the playoff situation, and they might not have committed to a team. They may be very capable of playing. They may be trying to get their rehab better and get to be a part of a team. We've seen it happen several times over the last few years.
Jerry, I know a baseball season and football season are very different, but I can remember when the Yankees were coming to town, the media would start talking about it, and friends and family all of a sudden really wanted tickets to come see you play, and you knew that they really wanted to come see the Yankees play. And I feel like you just talked about Christmas time a little bit, and already the national media, including us, are starting to talk about the Dallas-Philadelphia Christmas Eve game. And I think this is sometimes where you can overlook that opponent, and you're not trying to as a player, but so many people are feeding you the next game. So how is this game not going to be accidentally overlooked from the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, that to me has always been a non-participant, which is the most important part of the equation, our fans. But the participant, the player, he's more down in the weeds. He's more having to think of. Are you still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Sorry, guys, I heard a click off.
Yep.
But in other words, the player, and for that matter, even the coach, which isn't as important, but that player, man, he's down in the technique of the guy in front of him. The understanding of his assignment, then that's not only beginning when the week starts as far as this overlooking thing, but as you get closer to a game, and when you get right up on the game, ready to go down on kickoff or getting ready to run out there, boy, all of that kind of periphery, that overhang of have we overlooked these guys, that goes away. What you're trying to do is not get beat or beat the guy in front of you, really.
Jerry, the obviously your offensive line and kind of where everything pieces together is on everybody's mind right now. Do you think the offensive line we see this week or even throughout the next couple of weeks is going to be the same one we see in the playoffs?
I think reality probably would take exception to that because the old word position flex, or the ability to move around a little bit, because why? You get nicked up. Hopefully you don't get seriously injured like we did with Steele and have to really make a more permanent move. But throughout the year, the O-line and the players themselves are moved around, and so that you can at least attempt to have some position flex. Now, I will say this, Peters hadn't spent any time out there at right tackle, yet there he was playing in the game, and really the most important drive that maybe we've had this year is going down and beating the Houston team. Peters, our right tackle that came in that hadn't taken any snaps there. But he had played right tackle in his time. And these guys do have some good recall. They put those wrinkles in there when they were pretty young. I'm talking about in their brain, in their recall. And they had a lot of reps back in their 20s usually, or for that matter, in Tyron's case, and when he was in college. You can get there pretty quick.
Well, and to bring up Tyron, when he started, he was right tackle after you drafted him. Does he still have that position flex? Are you looking forward to seeing him as a right tackle in the next couple of weeks?
The answer is absolutely he does. Yes, sir. It's like riding a bicycle. Now, you do need reps. Don't get me wrong. The more reps you've got, the better you should play. And that's a fact. But still, you have the experience he's got, the skill that he's got, the physical attributes he's got, as well as the experience and years ago that he had playing this position. All of that will kick in here.
You know, Jerry, a guy that we haven't talked about a lot on being such a contributor this year is Leighton Vander Esch, and his rookie year was amazing, and then he dealt with injuries the last few years. But this year, can you talk about his resurgence as a really quality player for your defense?
Well, first let me start with his mentality, or let me start with just who he is. And you couldn't draw a football player up in this league and have one drawn up better than what Vander Esch is. And you've got to watch guys, because sometimes what they're asked to do, the system really complements what they do the best, or sometimes it's all football, but still they can do some of these things better. Well, first of all, he's doing things that he's evolved into, but he's doing some things that really suit him. And so he's been able to go from side to side. And that's, to me, when he shows up the most. He's got terrific range. He's got terrific wingspan. So he's really troublesome for those quarterbacks when they're looking at those short throws over the middle. Boy, he's got a big arm span. All of those things we knew about. But it's sure good to see him moving and having the range that he's having. Now, he's had that, don't get me wrong, but it's good to see it. That game that I saw him play the other day was one of the best I've seen a football player play.
And then one of your other linebackers, I know he's played a lot of defensive end, Micah Parsons. He recently said his body's a little bit more beat up this year than last year because he's playing more defensive end. How are you feeling about that with a month to go till you guys get into the do-or-die playoff situations?
Well, of course, we're into such a critical time, and we want him to be available for all the pressure that we can have, And so that usually implies pressure on the passer, which usually implies from the outside. It doesn't have to. It can come from the inside. But yes, there's no question that Mike takes a beating. And when you're as the type of player he is, when you're as aggressive as he is, and so he does take a beating, and it would concern anybody that when you have as many plays as he has, as many physical plays, he's a space hitter, what we call a space hitter, and that means he's got a running start, or whoever he's trying to hit, sometimes, except the quarterback, has a running start. Those guys get dinged up.
Now, he also made a comment on the Von Miller podcast about Jalen Hurts, and right now he says, "I'm sure that Philly hates me," and I was kind of curious. Do you think there's a city out there that hates you, that are a fan base? It's like, there's Jerry Jones, can't stand that guy. And how do you handle that? Do you kill him with kindness?
Oh, first of all, do you really think that? I've never thought of it that way. I've always thought I get so many Valentine cards from those cities. Do you really think people don't like me?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know, Jerry. I don't know. Do you have a stack of Valentine cards from those cities?
Come on, man. It's Christmas.
That's right. That's right.
Lots of
love being thrown around.
Tell them I'm the most popular guy there is in the deal. Dress it up a little bit. Give me one thing to smile about.
Gotcha. I got you, Jerry. All right. You brought up Odell. You just brought him up in that conversation just a few moments ago. How alive is that, and how close are you with him?
Well, the second is I'm not going to go how close, but I can go very alive, very much on the first question. It's very alive.
Because he wants it to be alive, or did y'all reach back out? Like, I'm kind of curious at how that
play games. I mean, he and I want it to be alive, and we all want it to be alive.
Gotcha.
And so yes, and so we're just working through things that are important to the future here.
Do you feel like T.Y. Hilton will suit out on Sunday and get live reps?
Listen, that's a little speculation. Obviously, some more to come, but he sure looked good at practice yesterday, and we have now NOW vision of him, and so there's good likelihood he will.
Okay, and then
it's kind of an either-or decision, and a place there on our roster that the other player, and not necessarily at the same position, but the other player will have something to do with the roster spot as well.
Okay.
At another position, the availability of another position.
Yes, sir.
If we get really jammed up on numbers at another position, that could bump his number out as early as the game against Jacksonville. But I can't tell you that. I don't know.
Yes, sir. So the game against Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, #1 overall pick, very hyped up, had a great career at Clemson. I was wondering what the Dallas Cowboys thought of Trevor Lawrence in the draft.
Just was right there at our first player picked in the draft. He was obviously a quarterback, which always gets bumped up, but still, just great skills, real rare skills throwing the ball. Boy, he's played well for them. Just every bit as good as we had him evaluated coming out, as he would make a great pro.
Jerry Jones joined us here on the K&C Masterpiece on 105.3 The Fan. The San Francisco 49ers are on a bit of a roll right now, and I don't know if you got a chance to sit there and watch them a little bit last night. I know you take part in all the games. When you look at that team, their roster, their coaching, where do you put them comparatively to the Cowboys right now and what they're doing with that rookie quarterback?
Well, I would say they're adjusting with that quarterback is real impressive. Looking at the team as a whole, when you can bring in at that position and play like they played last night or played like they played last week, and balance it out with the kind of defense they're playing, that makes them an outstanding team. I'm very if you look at competition and what we've got ahead of us, very concerned about San Francisco. They've got a good team.
Something else that popped up this week was the targeting rule. I know there were some conversations this week with some meetings and everything, and Stephen Jones said that he disagreed with the proposed rule for targeting on the field. And I was wondering, do you agree with Stephen on that rule?
Well, I agree with Stephen. Yes, I do. He spends a lot of time on that competition committee, a lot of time, and really gets into the nuances of very real data, not just opinions, but real data, filmed data. And so he gets privy to all that, and he's got that down every time, the way that I think about it.
Well, and I was also curious. I've never known the answer to this question. That's a pretty important role. I think there are 9 people on that committee. How did Stephen get involved with that initially, Jerry?
Well, it's really a compliment to him to be in management as well as be on the competition committee. Usually that was a coach's role. It is the one committee that I wanted to be involved in when I came into the National Football League. And so I was honored to be the only general manager that was on it for years, with Don Shula, with some of the great coaches, Marty Schottenheimer, some of the very great coaches. It was all coaches. We did it differently. We'd go off and go for 3 weeks, and you'd go to Hawaii or you'd go to someplace like that and sit there and go through all the data and all the countless reams and reams of plays. Seemed like you looked at every play that had been played in the National Football League during that time. For me, I learned a lot of football, boy, sitting there in that competition. I think I was on it 8 or 10 years. And I really learned a lot of football sitting around in those meetings, looking at how officiating is done, how plays are run that would create compromising situation for officiating, and looking at what is sound and what isn't sound, and have really probably a litany of the greatest coaches that have ever coached in football, period, and get to do that. So Stephen's had the same opportunities around a lot of great coaches, a lot of great people that have really spent a lot of time in this game, and it's been a very educational thing. But Stephen is outstanding there, too. He's taken it well and spent a lot of time and gives us a great insight into the philosophy behind why they call some plays and why they don't on officiating.
Well, Jerry, as we're looking up at the TV screen, we're seeing some highlights from yesterday's high school football state championships. Tonight, South Oak Cliff tries to defend their title. Duncanville and DeSoto are playing, and Aledo tomorrow in your stadium. I can always remember John Stephen and your son Stephen celebrating the unbelievable comeback of Highland Park. How much do you still watch these state championship games?
Well, I go to them. I watch them only in Texas. I'll assure you we've got the greatest football in this country, and we have it beginning at that, not beginning, but we have it in full-blown excellence at the high school level, and there's no reason. I used to say this, and I still do. If we could have exclusively North Texas, the Dallas Cowboys, and we only got the players out of North Texas, but we were the only ones that could get them. Cowboys had exclusive to North Texas. I think we'd win the Super Bowl every year. That's how good football is in North Texas.
And it's an absolute pleasure to watch as well. Hey, Jerry, before we let you go, you were talking about the holidays. It is this week as we get ready for all that. Do you have music? Do you have Christmas music playing in the office? I know you got the fan playing all the time, too. Do you have Christmas music and the fan playing simultaneously? How's that work for you?
I can't get enough for Christmas or the trappings around Christmas. I like to see those fruit cakes, believe it or not. I like to see that pecan pie, and I'd like one open around someplace all the time. I've got lights everywhere I go, Christmas lights, and I hear that music. I'll have a blue Christmas without you. Mm-hmm. But seriously, I want it everywhere I go, and you've made a serious question to an opportune time. This is favorite time for me, Christmas and football.
Oh yeah, man. And now at the Star, my wife was like, "Hey, we got to go out to Frisco. We got to go like take part in what they're doing out there. You guys are starting to put like a lot of effort into making sure that there's that celebration around the Star and around that whole complex there, man."
Well, thank you for mentioning it, but we are. There's no question. That's gratifying that it looks that way, but to have that Star associating with football directly, the Cowboys, the playing fields, and then to put all the kinds of trappings around, not just the lights, that's a big part of it. And we want to grow that, and we want, as time comes, it to be so special because we get a lot of visibility. That's shown a lot on national television out there at the Star. And so that's the kind of thing that tradition is really what it's about. And we rear back and fire at it now. We make it special and spend a lot of effort and money to do it. But we want to celebrate Christmas with football via the Star.
Well, you got one more week before you actually do have it on Christmas Eve. Looking forward to this weekend, Jerry. Best of luck in Jacksonville.
Thanks, guys. Enjoyed it today.